Okay, so to introduce our speakers. So our first distinguished speaker is Tan Sri David Wong. Um, Now, Tan Sri read law at university in New South Wales, um, Sydney in Australia. He also studied a BCom in majoring in accountancy.
CPD point tuh.
And
Satu kali ini ada
he Sorry, whoever is unmuted, would you mind? Sorry, yeah, whoever is unmuted, would you mind to mute yourself? Thank you. Okay. Um, so Chancery was attached originally to a public accounting firm in Sydney as an auditor. He then became a barrister in New South Wales in 1979. So he's been practicing for a long time. He's had a very fabulous and distinguished career. He was in private practice from 1979 until 2005. This was in Sabah and Sydney. And he was then in 2005 appointed a judicial commissioner of the High Court of Sabah and Sarawak, sorry, in Kuching. He was elevated as a judge of the High Court of Sabah and Sarawak in 2007. In 2009, he was transferred to the High Court of Kota Kinabalu. And then he was elevated to the Court of Appeal in Malaysia in 2013, where he headed the construction court. He was then appointed as a judge of the federal court in 2018 and chief judge of Sabah and Sarawak in 2018, July. He retired as a judge, as a chief judge in 2020. So he's now attached to Shang and One Partners. And his practice in mediation has been quite interesting and diverse over the time. Whilst he was on the bench, he helped, and I hope that I get this part right. He sat in mediations as a judge in family matters. He then went on to work with a financial disputes type of body, and he managed disputes between banks and customers. He also has done private mediations in the construction industry and on various company matters. And he's been doing this for many, many years. So he's very experienced in mediation, as well as law, obviously. So now, thank you very, very much to Tan Sri for joining us. And our other distinguished speaker is Dr. Naveen Ahuja, who is also very, very experienced in mediation and has done many, many different things, actually, mediation and ADR-wise in general. So Naveen's career spans nearly 2 decades. He's worked within the CISG, which is the International Sale of Goods. He's a mediator as well as an educator. He's done within the mediation field. He's covered many different areas, and many of them, I believe, and I may be wrong. If I'm wrong here, Naveen, please tell me. They include the sale of goods, to do with contracts, intellectual property, data privacy, franchise, and property matters. And he became an accredited mediator over a decade ago, and then he went on to hone his skills even further by doing an advanced mediation masterclass. And his passion for mediation really extends far beyond the practice. And he's been guiding students and lawyers and professionals through the accreditation process for a long, long time now. He's an accomplished author as well. He wrote Taming the Gorilla in International Commercial Arbitration, Leveling the Playing Field. And so he's a very much an all-rounder, I would say. He's within the disputes field. He's touched on many, many different different parts. but mediation and arbitration are really his focus, and he's very distinguished in this area. So I think we're going to be learning an awful lot from the both of them. So thank you very much to both of you for joining us today. So I will start off first of all by asking questions. So these are my questions, and as I said in the beginning, if anyone has questions, please do let us know what they are. You can put them in the chat, and we will answer them at the end. So, first question that I would like to put to Naveen is, how would you define mediation skills, and why are they valuable in today's workplace?
Well, first of all, Alex, thank you for the kind introduction and for having me here. A lot of people ask me, Naveen, is dispute resolution like Suits, the program? And I tell them it's exactly like Suits. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Mediation often goes under the radar compared to litigation or arbitration. But mediation is the dark horse of the dispute resolution industry. It's the real champion, working hard behind the scenes to save millions or billions of dollars and hours of headaches for every industry. The, the best way to explain what mediation is, in my opinion, is by describing an extremely high stakes dispute involving two kids and an orange. It's from the classic and easy to read book, Getting to Yes. So there are these two kids who discover this last orange. They both want it and are unwilling to share it. In a negotiation setting, the res
Please, could you mute yourself, whoever's there? Okay, I think someone's done it. Sorry, Naveen, please carry on.
the outcome of their negotiation skills really depends on the parties and their experience. They could struggle to understand each other's reasons for wanting the orange. And so if they can't reach an agreement, perhaps they need to resort to mediation. The mediator is meant to ask open questions, help the parties speak to each other, understand each other, listen to each other, and hopefully they're able to hear out the underlying interests of each party and reach an agreement. So after asking why each child wants the orange, one might say they want the zest, the peel for some art project. And the other may want the fruit, the inside fruit for making juice. So that shows that there are ways other than the traditional 50-50 to share that orange. So what are mediation skills? They include, amongst other things, active listening, asking questions, empathy, emotional intelligence, and problem solving. Mediation skills are indeed valuable in today's workplace. In fact, they are crucial. For instance, you know how sometimes when in a team project, different team members might have different views, ideas, and working styles. While, while these are great where diversity and inclusion are concerned, such differences can also lead to tension. A leader with strong mediation skills can facilitate a forum for them to discuss their differences and to find a middle ground, or to look at the bigger picture, focusing on the underlying interests and objectives. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. Do you know that's one of my favorite stories actually in mediation, the orange peel. It's interesting. Everyone has a slightly different take on it. But I think it's just such a fantastic way of explaining mediation actually and how it can help. Um, so very, very interesting to hear this. Thank you very much for that. Um, so David, if I may turn to you, turn three, what industries or job roles do you believe can benefit the most from strong mediation skills in your experience?
Okay, hi, everybody. Thank you for having me as well. But before I answer the questions, Alex, maybe I would say something because I understand the majority of the participants are lawyers. And I was one, I was on the bench, so you can say I have been on two sides of the table. So now I think we're at the stage of history where we cannot ignore mediation anymore, right? I mean, we're talking about 30 years ago, nobody cares about mediation. Now, why do I say that? Probably the audience doesn't know that now we have what we call the Singapore Convention. Now, what that means now is that if you have reached a mediation agreement in, let's say, Malaysia, and by the way, Malaysia has signed up for that, you can use that, register that mediation agreement in Singapore, and that actually would be your judgment, and you can execute that order all over the world like an arbitration award. That's how powerful that Singapore Convention is. So there is there now in the system. And the other thing is, even the courts now are encouraging mediation. I think it will come a time, lawyers, before filing their statement of claim in court and all that, they will have to sign off to say they've gone through mediation. Now, this practice is already in, say, Australia already. Before you file a statement of claim, you have to sign something like that. So as lawyers, I think we cannot ignore mediation at all now. So that's why, I mean, it's very appropriate that we are now talking about it in this sort of program and this sort of webinar, and telling the audience here that you actually can gain or in your work, as a plus factor in your CV. Now, coming back to your question, Alex, my experience is that, I mean, it's relevant in most industry, but I think it happens more in the construction industry because it concerns a lot of dollars and cents, right? As lawyers, we all know when there is a breach of contract, there's dispute of contract, the first thing the lawyer does is tell the employer terminate, or the focus is on your right. But as a mediator, should not be your focus. The focus, like Naveen says, is you have to ask the right question. What is there a solution rather than focusing on termination? Now, if you focus on termination, you ignore the fact that there are other cost factors concerned. Let's, for example, you're dealing with a big construction matter, and the contractor didn't do his job properly. The employer terminates. What happens? The employer has to go and get another third party to complete it. The cost will go up. Now, who's going to give the warranty for the work's already done? Surely the new contractor is not going to give the warranty. So those factors will come into it. If you are, let's say you are the CEO of a construction company and you have this mediation skill, you'll be thinking about that rather than terminating. To me, that's very important. Now, my experience in mediation was that in this case was that there was an adjudication award, which one party has got. And in Malaysia, the adjudication award is quite powerful. You can wind up the company irrespective whether the company is, a multi-million dollar company. So they came to me, and I was actually acting for one party, and the other side, and I suggest to the other side, let's talk, right? And I was actually wearing two hats. I was a negotiator as well as a mediator, right? I know parties was really a question of dollar and cents, right? So in the end, we talk. In the end, I just found out, look, the other side just want the money. So in the end, I told my client how much you're willing to give. They said that much. So in the end, I said, okay, here's a check of how many million. You can have it immediately, right? As opposed, because we have taken action to set aside the adjudication order, right? There is this uncertainty. How long would that take, right? And we already got an injunction stopping them from taking any action. So in that case, in the construction business, the contractor just want their money. So I used that tactics, and it worked. And at the end of the day, I get my millions of dollars straight away, in 24 hours. So that worked. So that's a real life example of what happened there. And there I was actually acting for one party, negotiating, but because of a mediation skill, I tried to use that to tell the other side, look, there are two choices here, right? You can have your money straight away, may not be as much as you want, but at least you get your money. So I hope that sort of enlightened the audience about the value of mediation.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that it really does certainly highlight the skills and the importance of it. You're absolutely right. In construction disputes, it can be invaluable. It can be the difference, I think, between smaller contractors going bust or not, for example. So it can make all the difference. So thank you. Very, very important to highlight that. Um, so uh so actually you already answered the next question, the follow-up question I was going to ask on that. So I will now go to our next question, which is back to Naveen again. So in your opinion and your experience, how can mediation skills improve a team collaboration and reduce workplace conflicts?
I don't have a two kids and an orange story for this one, but years ago, you mentioned in the introduction, I was managing an international manufacturing and sale of goods business. I had assigned an employee extra work. Sometimes it was towards the end of the day, around 5 or 6 p.m., and sometimes it was even on weekends. What happened was, after a few weeks of that happening, they submitted their resignation. I asked them, why are you quitting? They told me they thought I didn't like them. But in my mind, I gave them extra work because I viewed them as the strongest employee on the team. I actually had a lot of faith in them and was relying on them to take on more responsibility. In fact, I was considering them for a promotion to take a leadership position. Mediation skills are helpful for mediation, but they're also helpful in a range of team collaboration and workplace situations. Luckily, I was able to resolve the situation with this employee. But if I had understood more about mediation at the time, I could have avoided this awkward situation. In my professional opinion, the most powerful application of mediation skills is opening the lines of communication between different stakeholders, which can transform misunderstandings into opportunities for growth. And it's not just workplace conflicts, it's also personal conflicts. After I learned mediation skills, I can safely say that my wife has been much happier with me. But all jokes aside, mediation skills are very powerful in all high stakes collaborative environments. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, it's funny. I don't know if either of you have had the experience, but certainly there are times when my partner has turned around to me and said, "Would you please stop mediating me?" And and then I think, "Oh yes, okay, let me take that hat off." But it can be very, very helpful, if you're not spotted, possibly. Um, anyway, so thank you. Very, very interesting. Um, so then let me turn to you, David, and ask you the next question. So we've obviously heard about how, in a real life scenario, from Naveen, how this really helped in a workplace. And how as a leader it would have helped him more actually if he'd had the mediation skills at the time. He obviously handled the situation in a good way already, so already has those mediation skills, I think, within him, and has honed them over the time. But how do you see that mediation skills complement leadership and management abilities?
No, I think it has to be part of the armory of a good,
Oh, we've lost you. 10-3.
right? A good leader. Hello, can you
Hello?
hear me?
Oh, yes, I think you're back now. Yes.
You got back?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, as a leader, having a mediation skill must be part of your armory, right?
Mm,
A good leader doesn't say, okay, this is my right, you have to do this, you have to do that, because you're dealing with human beings. Is human management,
mm,
and when there's conflicts between the people under you, it's not a question of finding who's right, who's wrong. It's
mm,
finding out what's your problem, what's her problem, and try to resolve it. And as a leader, you cannot take sides, so to speak. You have
mm,
to ask the correct question, right? Is that the issue? Then you ask the other person. So it must be part of your armory. That's what I say. And you in HR and you have to handle those sort of thing. You have
mm,
to have that. You know how to uh, ask the question. So that's why it's important. I mean, I've gone through several uh, mediation courses. Of course, the first one is so foreign to you is that I can't be saying those words, right? Because as a mediator, you're supposed to facilitate. I mean, as a lawyer, I said, I'm not facilitating. I have to take care of my client's right or my right, right? So it must be, and those in the audience today who are not lawyers, and you are a manager, that you must have it, because unless you have the ability to resolve dispute amongst those working under you, right? You're gonna have an unhappy working place.
yeah. Yeah.
That's my take for Alex.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. For HR skills, it's so important, isn't it? I'm sure that they're forever managing disputes and as a manager, you're very often trying to manage disputes between different people and hearing all sides is very, very important, and not putting that judgment in is very important as well, isn't it? Especially so that they have that space to speak to you.
Yeah.
Um, but you're right. I think it must have been quite interesting from your experience as well. Uh, Given all the different hats that you have worn as a lawyer and a judge and a mediator, to um to be practicing those mediation skills. Because I think sometimes it can be quite difficult with those very, very different roles.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Um,
It was, but I was I'm fortunate that I'm able to overcome it. It's not easy. It's not easy, but once
Yeah.
you get over once you get to know what actually mediation is involved, you can see that you can use it in many circumstances,
Mm.
many circumstances, as Naveen has pointed out, even in family situations,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yes.
but
Yes.
of course, as a mediator, I think. Um, and the audience ought to know is actually you are actually facilitating a path for both parties to come to, right?
Yeah.
And then of course how I start my mediation is actually to arm the parties to tell them that I'm powerless. The people who has the power are you, because I'm
Yeah.
not going to make a decision for you, right? And you are the people who make the decision. And I find that to be a very good approach, and they feel empowered in a discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know how Naveen what's his take on that approach, Naveen?
Actually, when I no, that's interesting because when I train participants who want to become mediators, we have to constantly remind them because we've had lawyers, barristers, solicitors, barristers, and even judges undergoing training, and they're so used to telling parties what to do. And often when we would have role players pretending to be the parties, I would instruct them specifically to try to ask for solutions and suggestions from the mediator to try to trick them and see whether or not they actually, start giving advice. And the moment that happens, I immediately stop them and I said, that's a fail. We have to start from scratch. We have to start from the beginning again. And it's a great exercise, but yeah, it's hard because sometimes the answer may be so obvious to you. But in a facilitative mediation, you are not meant to be judging the parties or telling the parties what they should be doing, regardless of how obvious it is. There are
Yeah.
tricks, there are tools in your toolbox to find a way to get the parties to get there, or at least see that as an option. And if they don't like it, dismiss it. But it's for the parties to decide ultimately. So I agree very much with you, David.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's very difficult, I think, as a human being, if you see a solution, not to jump in and give that suggestion, isn't it? Um, I think you're right. It's also that so many times people see mediation as a place where they're going to go to and be given those answers. It's what they're expecting. But yeah.
But yeah, if I may chip in there, I mean, of course, I don't have 100% success in mediation, but those that fail, actually, the parties came back to me and said, it's okay, because at least now I know what the issues are, right? If they go to court, and they know what the issues are. Between the failed mediation and litigation, they could resolve it, because by that time, after a failed mediation, you got a third party telling you, hey, this is the issue that you are really dealing with,
Yeah.
right? And they go back and think about it. And sometimes they
Yeah.
say, so 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 I take the attitude, there's no such thing as a failed mediation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That kind of person will tell you that these are the issues. You still want to go on with it? Please go on with it. Right.
That's
But
it.
coming
And
Yeah.
back to what, yeah, sorry,
that's
Naveen.
sorry, I was going to say that's actually constantly what I'm reminding those training to become mediators because they feel that there's a strict time limit and they must get the parties to reach a settlement, otherwise they didn't perform well.
Mm.
And really the answer is not for them to reach an agreement, but for them to just hear each other, speak to each other, and understand each other. Because sometimes there are situations mediation doesn't work, even though actually, according to statistics, approximately 80% of cases that go to mediation result in settlement. That's a really high number.
Yeah,
But it's not just settling, it's about deciding whether or not we want to reach an agreement Or maybe it's better going to court because it's maybe a one-time relationship where they will never see each other again. Or maybe it's so emotional, things like that, those exceptions. But it's an impressive number, the 80%.
Mm.
Yeah, wow, that is high. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think even if a mediation doesn't settle, actually, there's always so many benefits from it. Um, yeah, I know I was in a mediation and the parties hadn't spoken to each other and directly in gosh, well over a year. And finally, they didn't come to a settlement at that point. They did finally. It took a long time, but after the first couple of sessions, they turned around and said, you know what? This is the first time we've actually had a conversation. And so it started that dialogue for them again. That they already felt was quite a win. So it can really make such, even if, as I say, even if you don't settle, it can make a big difference. So thank you very much for that. So okay, so my next questions actually are now related to career growth actually. And so it might be relevant to some people who are listening here. So how mediation itself can help you within your own career, whether you want to be a mediator directly or whether you want to use the skills that you would learn within any training within your career. So we've touched upon it briefly already, but so I'll turn this first question to Tansri. So do you find that employers actively seek candidates with mediation skills? And can those skills open doors to new career paths, such as HR, consulting, or executive roles, that kind of thing? Do you see the benefits, or can you explain what the
Well, I
benefits
mean,
are, I should say?
your question is, do the employer look for candidates at mediation skill? I
Yeah.
think presently, the answer is no, because the employer knows no better.
Mm,
Knows no better. It's only, I mean, from the context of Malaysia or for the startup, I mean, is this sort of webinar that we hope to get this message out to the society at large.
mm,
It's not surprisingly that people I know who are, who's got a university degree, has been in the workforce and all that. And when you talk about mediation, they really do not understand. They don't know that such a creature exists, right?
mm,
So, but when you explain to them, then they say, "Oh, is there such a thing?" Yes, there's such a thing. I said, "What's the benefit?" Firstly, it's much cheaper than go to litigation or arbitration,
mm,
right? And you will know the result in the shortest possible time. Most mediation, most of it, will only last 1 or 2 days, whether a success or not, right?
yeah, yeah,
And as opposed to going to arbitration or litigation, it's costly, it's time consuming, it's stressful. So
mm,
those are the things that the society at large ought to know, right? I mean, I used to practice in Sydney. Every time there's a dispute, the first thing they say, let's talk. Here, let's go and see a lawyer and issue a legal letter and ask them to do. But slowly and slowly we need to change. And I think we're getting there. We're getting there. I mean, the Malaysian government is actually doing quite a bit on making mediation and alternative dispute resolution, right, method. So
mm,
I think as society change, I think we'll an employer, I mean, now if I were employing, right, that would be a relevant question. Do you know anything about mediation? If you're going to be a manager and in charge of about 50 personnel, how are you going to resolve it when there's dispute of people? You are the manager, you ought to resolve it. And if
mm,
that person have a mediation skill, surely, I
mm,
mean, that would be a plus for a CV.
yeah,
That goes without saying.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I mean, I know, different jurisdictions obviously have got different experience of the practice of mediation. And so I'm sure that different jurisdictions will have different requirements possibly when they're looking for employees. I think in Hong Kong, and I wonder about Singapore actually. I think in Hong Kong that they would see it as a plus. Because I think the government here have been really promoting mediation for a long time, especially with our new IMO and everything. But what is it like, Naveen, in Singapore? Do you think that it would be a plus over there?
Uh, Mediation here is growing. The government is working hard in promoting it.
Mm,
And there are various kinds of mediation institutions here, including community, employer-employee disputes, and so on.
mm,
But regarding whether that's an asset in your having it on your CV, I'm not sure if I am suitable to answer that question. But I would think that it would definitely help you in your actual face-to-face interview.
Yes, that's true.
Because once you're in that room and then you're hearing these questions and how you answer and how you phrase your questions, that's where you really learn to listen to what the employer is looking for. And
Mm,
you yourself would know how to put yourself in a much better situation or increase your chances, in my view.
mm. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, very interesting. I think, yeah, different jurisdictions. Um, um, so do you think then that so just to carry on with that question, actually, Naveen, then do you think that obviously you are very heavily focused in ADR and mediation and arbitration. Do you see that it's been a benefit to your sort of personal branding, to your career growth and professional reputation?
When when people recognize you for your mediation skills, they see you as a natural problem solver,
Mm,
someone who can just, navigate challenging situations. But it's about more than just resolving conflicts. It's about establishing yourself as a reliable and trustworthy colleague.
yeah.
I recall this one time when I was a committee member with an arbitral institution. We faced a challenge. I can't disclose details due to confidentiality,
So,
but I put my hand up to help, to address the issue, paying attention to everyone's views and what was really important to them. And by exploring creative solutions, I helped reach a solution that worked for everyone. Now, that experience had a strong impact because the next time when a project came up, I was the first person they reached out to.
mm,
So my willingness to engage in mediation skills not only strengthened my relationship with the committee and the institution, but it also gradually led to my appointment as chairperson of the committee. And then that role got me more involved in different projects, greatly enhancing my career prospects. So ultimately, developing strong mediation skills can elevate your professional reputation and open doors to new opportunities, demonstrating that you can lead and encourage teamwork in any setting.
yeah, yeah. Very interesting. So it's obviously a great asset for as anyone as a manager or in any kind of leadership position. Um, Interesting. So no, just I'd like to touch chance through with you about sort of any challenges and misconceptions that there are around mediation. We've touched on a few as we've been discussing it. Um, but could you well start with Tansri and then Naveen if you can give your opinions as well. Some other common misconceptions about mediation, something that we haven't touched on yet, or if you'd like to elaborate on something we have touched on.
Well, I mean, misconception what? Mediation or meditation? That's a misconception. No, I think it's lack of knowledge about mediation, lack of
Mm.
knowledge. I mean, nowadays we all know that arbitration litigation are very expensive, and if only the people, the general society knows that there is such a thing called mediation. It's not costly, and it could give you a solution that both parties continue to move forward together, right? So those are the things, those are the benefits, right? It's again, I come back to it's a question of getting the message to the people. It's misconception. I don't think it's in there. There's no misconception because they don't know what is mediation, right? So
Right.
that's how I see it. So the
Okay.
sooner we get our message out there, I mean, especially the center that we have in Sabah, the Border International Center for Arbitration and Mediation.
Mm.
We are promote that very 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 strongly. We are trying to get people to to come and do mediation with us. We're getting some success there. People want to come up to us, especially the
Mm.
lawyers. The lawyers knows about it, and also and we know our first port of call will be the lawyers, and then thereafter the other stakeholders like the construction industries and all that. We're doing that. Like I was telling you, then last on weekend we had a conference with the architects and the law society where the issue of or the concept of mediation was talked about. So it's a question of getting the message there, and once the message is stuck, it's part of the furniture, so to speak, of the society. That is very easy. That is very easy.
Mm. Yes. Interesting. So for you, most important to get the message out first
Yeah.
and show how it really works. Naveen, have you got any thoughts or views on this or anything different from Singapore that you can explain?
Um, well, the one point that we touched on was about mediators being the decision makers. That's one misconception. And really, what happens sometimes is I've seen parties treat mediation like a courtroom. They've tried bringing in barristers who normally appear in court. I remember this one time, one of the parties brought in a king's counsel. And so the other party did the same to match their opponent. So parties forget or don't appreciate that the focus is on the problem solving
Yeah.
and finding mutually agreeable solutions
Mm.
rather than determining who is at fault and who isn't.
Mm.
And the lawyers who are present should be facilitating the process rather than dominating it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my experience with one mediation was I knew it was going to succeed when I first walked in. When both lawyers came up to me and says, "Judge, be proactive." Then my question is, what do you mean by be proactive? Are you trying to tell me that I can actually talk about the merits of the case? They all nod their head. I didn't say anyone. But my point is, the lawyers have to be on board. The lawyers know that if the mediation succeed, it is a plus for them. It is a plus for them, right?
Mm.
And if you have the lawyer saying, no, we just have to go through the motion, it's not going to work, which happened in another mediation. I mean, I just couldn't, no matter what kind of techniques I used, I just couldn't scratch the surface. But that's the reality. You can't get it done all the time. But again,
Yeah.
they actually came back to me. Oh, I know what the issues now. Yeah, we didn't get it done, but that's okay, right? So
Yeah.
that's how it is. But I mean, for the audience here, I mean, you know, from my experience as a lawyer when I started my career, mediation just cannot be just something foreign and should not be part of the problem-solving ecosystem.
Mm.
Everything has to be fought out in court, and that was our mindset. But times has changed. Times has
Mm.
changed, right? And that's why we have things we have for ADR. We got different types of method to resolve a dispute. And to me, mediation is something that we need to give it a go. And the more mediators we have, the better. You may not get the job as a mediator, but you can help somebody to resolve an issue.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I think very oftentimes people they have a dispute and they think they want their day in court. They think that they're going to do better doing that. Certainly, there's a friend of mine actually right now who's determined to have their day in court. I keep telling them that they should go to mediation because I see that it's going to cost them so much going to court, and I don't see the benefit. So, but it's, I think that's often a misconception that people are not going to get their day in court, Really, what is that actually? They want to be heard, possibly. But a mediator actually will hear you much better than, well, I can't say much better, sorry, but they will listen to the different issues. They will listen to the both sides and help you to find your solution rather than just coming down on one side. And so it can be a win-win. And I think people don't really understand that oftentimes. Um, so um, thank you. Now, last question that I have for you both is, and I can't remember who I started with last time, so I'm going to start with Naveen this time. Sorry, poor memory. And so the question that I have is, what's one mediation technique you found most effective in your career?
In my view, they're all actually very effective. But if I had to choose one, it would be not being afraid to ask questions. So
Interesting.
I'll share an example. Not long ago, someone casually mentioned to me about some mediation concern. I suggested that we meet up for coffee to discuss. So we met up, we talked, and I tried to understand their situation, what they were feeling. I was asking lots of open and I believe relevant questions. And by the end of our conversation, they seemed impressed that I genuinely cared about their concerns. They almost felt like I was working in their organization. And they asked me, Naveen, could you please help us and represent us in the mediation? I said, you want me to represent you? Okay, I didn't expect that conversation to lead such an opportunity, but in a way, it opened a new door for me. And since then, I've not only continued teaching mediation and acting as a mediator myself, but now I've also started representing parties in mediation cases.
Hmm.
So I guess it showed me at least how powerful asking questions can be. I'm always asking questions, and it's not just related to my career, but everyday life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, certainly asking those right questions can really make people feel heard, can't it? Very, very powerful. Um, so and Tensuri, how about you?
Yeah,
Do you-
if I had to choose, like Naveen says, I had to choose, it's using the solution mediation. In other words, after hearing both parties and tell them, look, from my standpoint of view, I have this solution for you, and both parties should seriously take into consideration, right? Now that works because of my previous job as a judge, right? Because they start thinking, if I going to go to court, right, I will not get what I want, the both sides. That's why I use the word to say, this is a solution, right? Both sides should seriously consider. So in other words, you're not going to get what you get in court, right? So it's an indirect way of saying you better take this, otherwise you're not going to get anything. So, in fact, I had issue with that when I started doing mediation. Actually, in the body I was working with, am I stepping over the line as a mediator to say something like that? Am I going to the merit of the case when I say something like that? But they say, no, 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 it's go ahead. You do what you think is correct. So when I see the circumstances correct, I try to come up with a solution and tell them, look, practically, you ought to consider this seriously.
Mhm.
That's the approach that I take when it comes to the crunch.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Oh yeah, I think as we get more experience, everyone has different ways of using the skills and of being a mediator as well. Our life experience, I think, it counts for a lot as well. So thank you very, very much, both of you. Now, if there's anything else that either of you would like to add, I think I'm going to take some questions from the participants. No? Okay, so the first question that I've seen is that someone has asked, I'd like to know more about the upcoming mediation course. Do we get accredited as a mediator after the next course? If yes, what's next for a mediator? Do we need to mediate X number of times to maintain our status? Gosh, lots of questions all in one. How do parties choose their mediator? Okay, so I will address most of this. I think that I need to pass a couple of parts over. But regarding the course directly, once you've completed the 40-hour course, there is then an assessment, and the assessment will be by Bickham, and we'll give the details actually of how that would actually work. But if you pass that assessment as a mediator, with this course, we're actually giving a dual accreditation. It's with Bickham and the ADR Centre in Australia. And the next part of the question is, so what's next for a mediator? Next would then be, if you want to be a mediator yourself, you need to then build your practice. That's a whole different talk in itself. And I think that one actually is a very relevant and important question. I know that we have some resources actually on how to build your career. But it's a very, very long answer. Basically get into networks, meet as many people as you can. It's a long, long answer, that one. And do you need to mediate X number of times to maintain our status as a mediator? In Hong Kong, no, and I don't believe in Malaysia you do. Many mediators, it takes a while for your practice to get going, actually. So I'd be surprised if that was a criteria. Tansri, please do tell me
No, no,
if it is.
as long as you do the course, you get accredited, and then you'll be on the list that becomes rosters as a mediator. Yeah.
Right, okay. Okay.
But I should add though that there are some institutions that require you to go earn CPD points each year, depending on which institution you're with. But yeah, I agree that there's no minimum number of mediation cases
Yeah,
per year. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. How do parties choose their mediator? Another massive question.
Could I
Please.
don't know if the question is answered. Well, can I answer that from the point of Bickham, right?
Please.
If you register your case with Bickham, right, we will give you names of mediators for you to choose. If both parties agree to it, then that would be your mediator. That person will be your mediator. And if you can't agree to it, then the Bickham will appoint a mediator for you. That's how it works. And I think there's a question on the typical cost of mediation for
Mm,
Bickham. Is 5,500 per day. That's the upfront fee. And then I think there's a reading fees about 600 per hours. So you're talking about, 6 to 7,000. That's the Bickham rate if you do the mediation with Bickham. But of course, there are private mediators outside, and some charge 10,000 for retainer and 10,000 a day. So, but definitely is cheaper than arbitration and litigation, right? Definitely, because it's a question if mediation fails, party have to go to arbitration. Uh, it's about what, 50 times more expensive or even 100 times more expensive than mediation.
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's yeah, I think the cost question is a bit of like how long is a piece of string.
Yeah.
But it's definitely much cheaper than arbitration litigation. The next question I can see as well, if mediation fails and the parties have to go for arbitration, what are the expenses involved in arbitration? Who bears it? Uh,
Whoever
big
loses bears
questions
it.
here.
Whoever loses the arbitration bears it. That's why it gets so
Definitely.
expensive.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's okay.
Let's just answer that. Not, yeah. I mean, the winning party, still has to pay the lawyers. I mean, you cannot claim the full amount that you're paying your lawyers. So there's still some cost even to the winning party.
And depending on the jurisdiction or the rules, it might be that just each party bear their own costs. So regardless, you're going to be spending a lot of money unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Now, what's good about going through the mediation process before the arbitration process, as David mentioned earlier, was that at least you're getting to streamline the issues. You're narrowing down the issues, and you might actually even have partial agreements. So let's say you have 10 issues in dispute. You might agree on six or four or even three, and then the remaining you go to arbitration. So at least you're not spending all your time and efforts.
Mm, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, okay. Um, okay, and then from Ahmad, he's asked, are there any special skills a mediator needs to possess in order to keep the interest of the unwilling party maintained in attending the proceedings?
Answers attend the course.
There are, in other words, yes, there are special skills. Come to the course and you'll find out. Thank you. Um, okay.
But that's actually a very good question. But again, I mean, to be serious about it,
Hmm,
it's not an easy skill, but you
hmm,
can learn it, right? And again, I come back to what I said before. You may not succeed, but you help the parties already knowing what the issues are.
hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Oh my, there's
looking at
one more.
another question. We just actually we're running out of time. Um, so I think actually, oh gosh, there's a couple of other questions. I think some from Shayam, how much you're remunerated. It really depends on how much you're remunerated. It's up to you. How often do such jobs become available? Also, really depends. Who are the firms? These are Shayam, I think I'm going to answer those questions to you offline, but the answer is there is no way to answer those questions definitively. That's my answer anyway. I don't know if Naveen or Tansri has another answer.
Well, I'll just add that basically there's no shortcut. All
Yeah,
these things you have to research, and it takes a lot of time and effort.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And then the last one, very quickly, is there any special requirements or threshold to meet to be a mediator? My answer is yes, you need to, well, become an accredited mediator, I should say, you need to do the course. A specific 40-hour training course. There are some which are beyond that now as well, or you could do a master course, or master class, sorry, and then pass the assessments. And those requirements are important to be empaneled in any arbitral or mediation institution, and really to be taken seriously as a mediator as well, I think. And different jurisdictions have got different thresholds as well, and different practices have got different thresholds. So
And I must say here, you don't have to be a lawyer to be a mediator.
yes, very, very important point. Thank you.
This is the misconception that lawyers, only lawyers are mediators. They are very good I know there are good mediators who are engineers, architects, by years of experience.
Yeah,
And I know one person who I think is a architect or whatever. He set up a mediation firm. I mean,
excellent.
there's no stopping you. There's no stopping you from setting a
Yeah,
mediation firm and telling that you do mediation work, right? But of course,
absolutely.
the minimum threshold, you have to attend the course
Yeah.
to really know what it is. And then it takes, like Navin says, there's no shortcut. You just have to keep learning.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you
But
very
can
much.
I
Okay, all
say
right.
it is very rewarding because if you think about it, oh sorry.
Go on.
Go ahead, Navin.
Sorry, I was just going to say that it is very rewarding because, you parties fly you to different countries. All you have is a small briefcase for paperwork. They fly you in, you're hearing the problems, and you're getting them to speak to each other, listen to each other, and then you're not digesting any of that or taking on the stress because you're not a decision maker. I know this one person, he's constantly flying from one jurisdiction to another and doing really well. But again, it's about putting in the effort in the very beginning to reach there. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think that's absolutely right. Fantastic. Thank you very, very much to both Dr. Navina Ahuja and Tansri David Wong. Really, really appreciate your insights and your valuable information. So I do hope everyone here has taken away a bit more about mediation. And if you have any questions, please do reach out to us. I know that I saw someone put in the chat the contact details. I mean, you've all registered, so you have an email address to get back to us at as well. So any questions, if you'd like to join the course, if you'd like to know more about mediation, let us know. And we'd be very, very happy to tell you, to speak to you. So thank you, and look forward to seeing you again. Okay.
See you, Navin.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Okay.
We'll let everyone log off.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I'll just turn myself off for now.